welcome back to another video, and today we've finally got my how to draw faces tutorial. It's been a long time coming, I am aware. It's been maybe years, let's be real. But finally, it's here. So I'm so excited to finally be doing this video. It is in depth. I'm going to be going through how I do every single little feature and how to put it all together at the end. Who is she doing a tutorial? Crazy. So, as I said, today's video is a tutorial, and also it is sponsored by Squarespace, and I wanted to thank them for the spawn, as well as helping me out with my brand new website. I spoke about this in my video from 2 weeks ago, but I have a new website and Squarespace helped me a lot with it. I used Squarespace in high school and many of my family members use it as well, and I feel like that just goes to show how easy they make it for you in setting up your brand new website, even for people like me that have no idea about anything about web design. So there are templates, domains, and just basically amazing customer service for people that, again, know nothing about web design. If you'd like to have a go at it yourself, start your free trial at squarespace.com, and when you're ready to go, head over to squarespace.com/pipa to get 10% off your first website or online store. I think it's a pretty sweet deal, getting 10% off. It's already not expensive, so 10% off is amazing. So getting back into the tutorial, there are a gazillion ways of drawing faces, and the methods that I know of or that I typically use is a very small fraction of it. And I just wanted to reinforce the idea that this tutorial is about how I draw faces. It doesn't mean it's necessarily correct or the right way to do it, but it is how I do it, which is what you guys asked for. So for the sake of making this tutorial more easy for different people, I'm going to split it up in 2 sections, and the timestamps for each section are in the description below if you want to skip ahead to one of them. So I'm going to separate them into eyes, noses, mouths, head shapes, and ears, and then how to put it all together at the end. And I tried to kind of put them into different sections that would be easier in terms of putting them all together. That made no sense, but we're gonna keep going. So starting off with eyes. I have made a tutorial on eyes about 5 years ago, so please don't go watch it, but it's ridiculously bad. But basically, I'm gonna give you kind of the real-time drawing of it so you guys can see which lines I make and how. So for the eye, I will normally start with a long arch at the top, and this can be as angular or as curved as you'd like. And then I will do the waterline just at the bottom. Yeah, I put in some little arrows to kind of show you guys the step-by-step. And then the iris and the little lacrimal gland thing in the corner, I'll go into those in a bit in more depth. But yeah, basically I'll add the waterline at the bottom, which is just basically a copy-paste line of the bottom eyelid, and then add a little line above the first curve that we did, which is going to be our crease, our eyelid crease. And then from then on, I just start adding details, so eyelashes and like shadows and lights in the iris, blah de blah de blah. Of course, all these features can change drastically depending on what kind of eye you're drawing, or what sort of emotion they're conveying, or the perspective. So yeah, I just wanted to also convey that there is a gazillion things that go into many of these things that I'm going to mention, but I am giving you guys mostly like a crash course. We're calling this a crash course. So I'm giving you guys here just a little rundown of what the eye looks at its different stages of openness. So that's when the eye is fully open. This is when the eye is half closed, which is normally what you'd use to make someone look kind of sexy or like mysterious, or, you know, just a little suspicious, I guess. And then you've got the eye fully closed. So that's, for reference, when the eye is closed, you basically just draw the bottom line and that's it. So the bigger the visible eyelid is, means the more closed the eye is, if that makes any sense. So if the eye is more open, the eyelid, the top eyelid, will show less because it's creased. Yeah, I hope that made sense. Here I'm giving you guys a couple of different ways that you can draw an eye, so like different shapes. There's different ethnicities that have different eye shapes, different age groups that have different eye shapes as well. So typically when you're illustrating, a female eye would probably look a lot more rounder and bigger and oval, whereas a male eye is a lot more harsh-edged and rectangular, if you will. And also here I'm giving you guys just a little rundown of how I draw eyelashes. So the bottom eyelashes, I'll normally just go in with just hairs that go in opposite angles. So some that go in the right and the left and they just overlap, and I think that messy look really makes them realistic rather than just drawing a bunch of singular eyelashes separated. Because if you look at your own eyelashes, you can see that they overlap and they're, you know, a bit messy. So that's kind of what I try to recreate. Here now is a little crash course on how I draw eyebrows. So y'all know me, I love me some good thick eyebrows, and I get a lot of questions about this, about why I draw really thick eyebrows. It's not because I can't draw thin eyebrows, because I did used to draw eyebrows really thin. It's a stylistic choice that I found I love in my drawings, so I draw it like that all the time. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to draw some thinner eyebrows. And it's basically the same premise. I just draw out the bottom line of the eyebrow and then add a bunch of hairs coming from that line upwards. And you can even draw out the top line for guidance and then just fill it in. But yeah, just drawing sporadic hairs coming out from the bottom line. And there, really quickly, I'm just showing you guys how I draw like the iris situation. I'll normally darken the top of the iris down maybe towards the middle 3/4. That's also where I normally add like the lighting in my eyes. Obviously the lighting changes depending on what's, you know, hitting the face or whatever, but I like the harsh contrast of the light reflection in the darkest part of the iris. So that's normally how I do it. It's quite simple. It's a simple way of doing it. I'll draw the pupil and then just darken the iris. And then of course we have different perspectives of the eye. So here I'm giving you guys a little run through of how to draw an eye in profile. So the best trick that I can give you guys is drawing out a capital A sideways and going from there. Like, that's the best way to do it. That's how I was taught when I was a child, and I still use that trick. I'm also giving you guys a bunch of little like different references here on how to draw eyes like at a 3/4 view, a down upwards view. If you think about the eye as like a potato wedge, that's pretty much it. It is basically a wedge, just a curved triangular shape, I guess. So that's pretty much it for the eyes. That was very fast, but you guys can always pause and, you know, go back and have a look at what I mentioned. Which leads us on to noses. So noses, honestly, I don't really draw out many different types of noses. I normally have like my go-to nose drawing for females and my go-to drawing for males. So I don't really have that much variety, but this is normally how I draw noses. So I'll draw in the nostrils first to kind of set the nose in place. And I'll just draw them like two little teardrops going in opposite directions. And then I'll just draw two little curved lines on the sides to make the nostril, you know, nose bit. I don't know how to explain this. It's really simple. I'm showing it here how I do it when you draw out the guideline of the two nostrils. So I'll just draw in the actual nostril hole, and then I'll make a little line just connecting those two, and then I just draw out the sides of the nose. And I normally always darken the bottom part of the nose just to give it some dimension, but that's it. That's how easy it is. But of course this is the front view of the nose. Very simple. So yeah, this is just me kind of showing you different variations of how it can be done. This is a version of it, but more pointing down, because again, there are many different ways of drawing noses because there are very different nose types out there. So yeah, for a nose that's kind of being looked down upon, you will normally not even see the nostrils at all, so you just kind of draw the above part of the nose, which is kind of like just a triangle kind of looking down. I've drawn again some arrows to show you guys sort of the situation. The best way to kind of think about the nose and its perspective is thinking of it as like a little pyramid, like a little triangle, and just kind of imagining it placed on a face, and that'll really help you with perspectives and everything. Yeah, this is kind of my go-to how I draw noses in profile. I like them pretty curvy, you know, I like drawing some curvy noses. If it's like a male, really like strong face nose, I'll normally go really harsh with like the straight lines, as you can see here. I'll give him like a real like arched aristocratic nose bridge as well. You can play around with this a lot as well, like just trying out different nose shapes. It's, yeah, again, you can't go very bad with noses, I think. So that's how I draw them in profile normally. I'm gonna kind of show you guys now how I draw them in a 3/4 view. Again, the best way to think about this is thinking about it as a little pyramid, just a little pyramid. And what I normally do is I draw out a pyramid, like a 3-sided pyramid. I don't even know what that's called. Like a 3-sided pyramid. Wait, that is a pyramid, isn't it? I have no idea. Maths. So I just draw out the pyramid on the face, and then using like the planes of the nose, I will kind of sketch out the nose on top of it. So that was a terrible example, that first one I just gave you. That was bad. So I went in and I showed you another example. So I always start off with the bridge when I'm drawing noses in profile, because it's the best way to establish the perspective, I guess. And then you normally just see a little bit of the nostril on the other side. So I'll normally just draw like a little peeking out from the other side, and draw out the nostril on this side, sort of how I draw it in the profile. But yeah, I just basically combine both the profile and the front view based on what the little pyramid is telling me. This is some more examples. I'd like to say that a really great tutorial that I love for faces is Trickywagon's MINITIPS PDFs. I'll leave the link down there in the description where you can get her like faces tutorial PDFs to download. They're really, really good. They're really helpful. She shows you how she draws faces, and I've taken on a lot of the things she's taught me. So I'll leave that in the description. Another one that I think is very, very, very worth mentioning is Tepes tutorial on YouTube. Again, I'll leave the link in the description, but that tutorial is really good. Again, it's how she draws faces rather than, you know, how to draw faces for beginners or something, but it's really in-depth, and it's a very good stylistic way of drawing faces. I think it'll be really helpful. So that's me just showing you guys a little bit more of an example of what the little pyramids can look like and how I draw them. And yeah, just mess around with it, I think. Simple as that. Which then leads us on to mouths. We're whizzing through these guys, but we got this. So for mouths, again, I have a stylistic way of drawing mouths that I always use for my go-to, which I'm showing you guys here very quickly. Obviously, I'm going to go into depth a little bit. But yeah, it's a very curved wiggle line for the middle that starts off going up. And then I just draw in the top lip and the bottom lip like this. I normally don't draw much of the bottom lip. I'll just draw like a little line, just showing that the bottom lip is there, but I don't make it very nuanced. And it's basically, if you've ever seen Steven Universe, it's basically Amethyst's mouth design. It's literally kind of that. Of course, there are very, very, very different ways of drawing lips and mouths. There's Cupid's bows to consider. There's lip thickness, yeah. But the one thing that I think is very universal is that the top lip is always darker when you draw lips. So that's one thing to always keep in mind when you're drawing mouths, is that the top lip will normally generally always be darker than the bottom one. I hope this makes sense. So when you draw a mouth, it's always worth just shading it a little bit in to help you out. I'm giving you guys a little bit of some examples of how to draw teeth inside a mouth. Again, teeth, it's not exactly my forte, but there are very easy ways of doing it. So if you're drawing a smiley face, what I do is I just draw like a rectangle inside an open mouth, and then that rectangle in the middle is the teeth, because your teeth don't go all the way like straight plane in your mouth. They're curved, so eventually they do get darker. Yeah, just kind of look at it and see how you can mess around with it. I'm giving you guys some little profiles of how I draw mouths in profile. The top lip will normally be more protruding generally than the bottom one, but in most cases they are very much on the same line. It's just the way I draw them. I normally do it like that. And here are some examples of how I draw some lips with some more intense Cupid's bow. And that's pretty much it for lips, guys. There's really not much I can tell you about lips. So next up, we've got head shapes. So again, head shapes can vary from age groups and gender and whatever. There's so many different head shapes. There's more oval, more squared, more rectangular, more heart-shaped. And of course, you can always look up a bunch of references online for these. I'm not gonna draw them all out for you because again, I don't even know all of them. This is just kind of the basics. There's like a more roundish face, and then there are more angular faces and whatnot. I'm not going to go too into depth about perspectives on head shapes. I feel like Trickywagon goes into depth with those a lot better than I would ever be able to do. So definitely check out her PDF in the description below because she's good at that a lot. She's really good at it. So yeah, this is sort of how I will sketch out a head shape. I'll normally draw out a circle and then draw out the jaw portion of the head outside of the circle, if that makes any sense. And that goes the same as when I'm drawing it in profile. I'm giving you guys a little small rundown of how to draw ears as well here. Like from the side, whatever. Again, I make ears very simple. I put in some arrows as well to kind of help you out with how I do them, but it's just a matter of also looking at your ears and kind of seeing what they look like and drawing them out a bunch of times, I guess. But yeah, this is sort of how I draw them on a head, I guess. Yeah, this is also a head from the back, and it's not great, but yeah, that's how I draw ears from the back. It's just two little stumps on the side of the head. Head shapes, there's not much to it. It's more of looking online for references and looking at different people's heads in life. Which leads us on to the last step, which is putting it all together. So I'm going to be showing you guys 3 different methods that I'm aware of that work for me. So there's the first method, which is just a simple draw a blob and that's that. The second method, which is the one that I use the most, is the one that I just mentioned, where I draw out a circle and then draw out the jaw portion of the face, so from the nose down, outside of the circle. So that already gives me a bunch of reference for where everything goes. And then this is the one that Trickywagon uses a lot that I've been trying to incorporate into my process, which is using a cube, basically, and positioning it in perspective and then drawing the head inside of it. But I'm still trying to get used to using that one. It's really good for perspectives of the head. But again, I normally use this method. And that's terrifying, probably the most terrifying thing I've ever seen or drawn. Sorry about that. So void of life, isn't he? Anyway, so here I'm kind of showing you how I do it. I draw a circle and then I draw out the jawline, and a little bit above where the circle ends is where I will draw the eyes, and then the line where the circle ends will normally be the nose, and etc, etc. Of course, I always draw in some guidelines, like a little cross in the middle of the face to kind of help me figure out where everything goes. It's also a matter of practice to kind of becoming aware of where, you know, facial expressions and facial features go. It's a matter of practice, of course. It's anatomy. But this is normally how I will position my facial features on my people that I draw. Also on a 3/4 view, of course, and all of this goes the same to when drawing in profile. I do the exact same. I will draw out the circle, then draw out the front of the face and the jawline, and then I will draw in the features accordingly. So yeah, again with proportions, in regards to how big you make the features on the face is again to do with practice, but it can also be a stylistic thing, because you can always mess around with how big you make each feature to suit not just the age group but also your style. I'm giving you guys a bit of an example here with this good boy, where I'm drawing out his face like sort of normally, and then you can literally mess around with this so much. You can grab just his facial features and make them really small, and immediately he's a little potato man. You know, he's a full-on Humpty Dumpty. And I find this so fun to do. It is something as simple as that, as making the facial features too small for the head. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the tutorial part. I'm gonna give you guys like a little summary here at the end while I draw out this face on the right, so you guys can see my process from start to finish. I will say the main thing that I want to endorse is using references and drawing from references. So whether that be Pinterest or at coffee shops or just drawing from life, if you can draw from life, you'll draw from your head in like seconds. It's really about practicing. So life drawing classes are really good for this sort of stuff. I really recommend them. And if you can't do any of these things, use yourself as reference. Just literally pulling faces in the mirror and drawing them out is not only fun, but very, very helpful. So I wanted to also give Squarespace a very big thank you for sponsoring this video. Again, I will leave the 10% off link down below in the description box. So don't forget to take advantage of it, guys. Yeah, thank you so much, Squarespace. And yeah, I'm drawing out this little face of a Sabrina looking girl. Can you tell I just binge watched Sabrina on Netflix? So this is sort of how I draw faces. I didn't really include hair in this tutorial because I feel like that's something completely different that has its own thing. But I really hope this tutorial was helpful. I really hope it helped. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye bye!